Right, welcome everybody, and welcome Scanning Pens as well.
Thank you.
And it's lovely to be back for another event because we did the primary version and we promised the secondary version, and here it is today. So welcome
Brilliant.
everybody. There's primary versus secondary. There's an awful lot of crossover, but there's an awful lot of differences, isn't there? All those
There
numbers of
is.
staff that you're working with, and all those personalities, etc. And I know as a SENCo, trying to get all of those different departments working in unison can be a little bit of a challenge. So, without further ado, I'll hand over to Scanning Pens. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for the lovely introduction. So what I'll do is, guys, is share my screen. I can see it's being recorded as well. So anybody who I assume can't join can get the recording. And I'll also share with Lynn the copy of our presentation as well. So from myself and Neil, so you'll have all of those and some of the resources that we'll discuss today as well. So bear with me and I'll share my screen. Can everyone see that okay? Just see me clicking buttons, can't we? There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, all see it okay? Brilliant. So a little bit of an introduction. So I'm Jim, the UK country manager for Scanning Pens. My role here is to support and guide my team members, but also to be part of exciting projects like today where we can talk to you guys around what Scanning Pens have to offer, about some of the support that we offer in secondary schools, but also give you an insight into the exciting impact that we're having on schools. Because what I wanted to do today is actually share with you some of that impact and how not only has it raised results and given great return to the schools, but it's also increased that independence and confidence. And you guys will be able to really see that shining through in some of the videos that I'm going to share today and some of the impact studies as well, which I think is really key here. And it's something that gives me real joy when doing this job is seeing how these pens are really helping to support dyslexic or people with neurodiversities as well. Being dyslexic myself, I think it's a real driver, and I think it's really important to share this with everybody here today. And we've got a lot to talk about, so I look forward to sharing that all with you. So I'll pass over to Neil, who will introduce himself, and then we'll go straight into the presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, my name's Neil, obviously. I'm business development here at Scanning Pens, and I've been here for about 6 years now. And since working here, I've also found out I have a couple of neurodiversities myself. I'm not dyslexic, but I do have some other neurodiverse traits. And obviously, being able to support any student with these sort of traits is really what our aim is. I look after the special schools, independent schools, and secondary. So any queries or anything you may have after this, if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch.
Brilliant. Thanks, Neil. That was great. Neil does a fantastic job as well. He's been with our company, as he said, 6 years, but he's been dotted around in all different areas of the business. So he knows from workplace to uniform services. So we do a range of different support, and he's now doing a fantastic job in helping myself and the team to support the secondary market as well. And obviously, as he explained, the independent and special schools. So thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Jim.
So, I wanted to start with just talking about empowering neurodiversities, especially with assistive technology, and just talk to you about kind of some of the essential support and help that we have from our educational department here. So, not only from the devices itself, but some of the support that I've seen going around and supporting some of the schools. So we have a range of different pens, the Reader 2, the Exam Reader 2, and the Reader 3, that can really help to support. But also, I wanted to explain, I'm sure you've heard these phrases before, but what is kind of assistive technology? So from adaptive technology, digital technology, ATEC. There's all different names in terms of what it is. But assistive technology is kind of any piece of equipment, software, or product systems, all that can be used to help support somebody with learning needs. I can remember from a long time ago when I was at school, that this just wasn't readily available to me. It wasn't available to anybody. We had the old Stephen Hawkins type voices, assistive technology, and the voices is now improved dramatically now, and I think we're seeing that in our day-to-day jobs, and it's being recognised not only by kind of ourselves in schools, but also through the government and some of the funding that's becoming readily available to people now, which is really, really, really exciting to see. Also, what I wanted to talk about is how AT tools can be used, because it's difficult with the technology to know exactly how this can be used. And I know I use AT in my day-to-day life, from the emergence of AI and how easy it is to use for people in their everyday life, but also for schools and training support, but also to give you guys an idea of how you can think about using AT for your every day, and how you can support your students. So, using it for assessment and planning, helping individuals with disabilities to increase their independence and enhance their overall quality of life, can be really highly beneficial for students, both with physical, sensory, cognitive, and learning disabilities, from the assessment of planning, different selection of technology, and support, I feel, is really important. And I think one of the things that I've noticed from some of the support that I've given to schools is how they give that monitoring and feedback. Because it's all well and good giving technology to people and allowing them to use it, but if they haven't had that training and support, it's going to be difficult to be able to get the most effective use out of that technology. But also actually being able to gather feedback and student voice, we felt, has been really important, and that's been one of the positive changes that we've seen, especially in a format where maybe you're a mat school with over 5-10 schools. It's hard to monitor exactly how that AT is being used, but using kind of a monitoring or feedback system has been really beneficial. And I think now as well, and I'm sure Neil will run through this, but some of the ways in which assistive technology can be used to collaborate has been really important. As we all know, Google, Microsoft, all of these different technologies have been fantastic to collaborate with some of your MIS systems, the way in which you teach, support students. Not every school has had that, been fortunate enough to have that technology, but also including our pens as well. The way in which you use that as a digital bridge, to connect our pens to a computer or laptop, scan text in, and then have it kind of upload to the computer screen, has been a real benefit. So, these are ways in which we can really use AT to help to support our students.
Jim, sorry to interrupt. Your sound is just a little bit tricky to hear. The microphone's not great. Is there any way you can give it a fiddle?
Yeah, I can have a look.
Sounds like it might be a
moment.
Wi-Fi
What
issue,
I might have
so
to do
maybe
is
turn the cameras off.
Is it? Yeah.
Sounds to me like it might
What
be.
I've done is, is it the Wi-Fi? Is it? Yeah. If I stop that, is that better?
Yeah.
If I stop my video?
Much better.
Am I still sharing the screen,
Perfect.
or do I need to share it again? Yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
you need to share again.
No, that's fine. There we go. Is that better, guys?
Yeah,
much
thank you.
better.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So brilliant. And then, we wanted to look at kind of neurodiversities, because originally when we first kind of, for example, introduced our devices, so the pens, we found that we were kind of only in a dyslexia kind of market. However, when you start to look at some of the other neurodiversities, and I'm sure Neil will vouch to this, is, it starts to spring up some areas such as ADHD, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, autism as well, and we've seen how the pens can really support in these areas. I know Neil's done a great work in terms of supporting schools in the special education sector, where AT is really, really beneficial and part of their kind of daily lives, but also in support of their work as well as they progress further.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, Jim, in the special schools, you obviously have students that might have autism or ADHD, where proximity, having somebody close to them can be an issue. So having that support where they can get the
Yeah,
support they need using the pen without having a human reader, so to speak, or a TA leaning over them actually makes them feel more inclusive and gives them that opportunity to work alongside their peers.
absolutely. And I have a prime example was we went into a secondary school local to us, and we had a student who had autism, but they didn't really like interacting with people and found it quite tricky. And for them, that was a massive anxiety for them. And since using assistive technology such as our pens, they were actually able to pick up a book for themselves for the first time ever and actually use our pens to scan over and capture a piece of the text from there and kind of relay that back to the teacher, which for her, I remember her speaking, actually, she said at that point, brought tears to her eyes because she actually was able to speak to that student, and that student had a passion to be able to read and actually access that text for themselves, which was a real, for us, amazing to hear, basically, which I felt was lovely because it shows that independence and confidence that not only our pens but assistive technology can give to students in this current time. So the other thing that we've created with the lovely Julia, who's our head of education here, she helped create the NASON AT mini guide. So some of you may be part of NASON already as an organisation. They're fantastic in sharing, the next generation of SEND and supporting SENCos coming up as well, and SENCos right now. And she created the assistive technology mini guide, which just basically she actually co-authored. And on there, you'll find an understanding of how to implement different challenges, find and tested solutions, and there's also helpful links to important documents. So I'd highly, highly suggest going onto the QR code here and downloading a free copy there. And that's all available to you. And again, I will be sending a copy of this presentation to everybody as well. So the other thing that Julia created is the literacy toolbox. So in here, you can see there it's split up into different areas of needs. And this is just a prime example of the way in which you could model or support students, especially in them lower key stage groups, where they could use them in their intervention lessons, in their support, and they can go and pick out some of these different tools. Some of these are, really kind of low level, low cost, easy to kind of gather away and produce your own box, basically. And I've got some examples of schools that have been using these or how they've implemented the AT across their school as well. So this is actually near yourself, Neil, in Wiltshire, where this is a lower school, so a primary school. However, this just gives you an idea of how they made their school. And Neil will do this, talk to you about some of the dyslexia-friendly schools where they went for the Dyslexia BDA Awards, the British Dyslexia Association, and how they made their classrooms more inclusive, basically through the use of assistive technology and create an environment that's inclusive for all of their students, to feel comfortable and confident to be able to, as you can see there, picking up a pen, you can see an iPad there as well, on how they can do this basically to support their students. And I think this is really, difficult to do as such, but once done, it's a great way in which to develop and support their learning. And this could be done at the lower key stage groups for secondary schools as well.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned there, Jim, a school very close to our office here, John of Gaunt School, who were a customer of ours already. They had 30 plus of our exam pens, which obviously was helping the students be in the exams independently, but they were going for the BDA kite mark. So they got in touch and we actually sent out 30 of our classroom pens, the reader pen. We went into the school on their inset day and trained all of the staff up on how to use and how to change all the features and settings. And recently we've had feedback where they're now using the pens in every area of the curriculum. So they have pens in class, and the students basically book the pen out at the start of the lesson and then obviously book it back out at the end. And the take up has been really, really good. And apparently we've also had a lot of students who have come up this year from year 7 into year 7, sorry, who had used the pens at the primary level. So now having access and continuity of the pens throughout the earlier secondary years is going to make using the pens throughout the rest of the secondary journey so much better for them. And the uptake has been fantastic, and we're now just going to be going back shortly to see if we can get some information on how that's improved some of the students, how their confidence has gained and things like that. So it should be really hopeful and really good to hear.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. And I think one of the things that a lot of you will come across, especially when it's implementing something quite new, especially with assistive technology, is how you model this and how you share the use of assistive technology. And what we found is we come across a lot where it's kind of a stigma around looking different, and even sometimes engaging teachers that have been so set in their own ways. They're just like, I'll just sit next to them, it's just easier. Well, we want to make it a more inclusive approach, and we found ways to kind of do this and this is the education team have come up with kind of these tech champions. So these are people who, would benefit from the training, they would take that training on, and they would really promote and model the use of this technology as that kind of normal way, basically. And you can use that with maybe, say, students, or you could use that with your TAs, for example. And what this does is it reduces that stigma, because they're seeing others using it and they're seeing the confidence that is coming up across from them, which will hopefully reduce the stigma in kind of students saying, oh, no, I ain't using that. I'll look silly in class. Where kind of using this way, having that tech champion to champion the way in which technology can be used, it becomes normalized, I think is the best word to kind of describe it as. And we've just come up with ways in which you can say, scan my QR code, let's become the digital champion. They get training, they get like a certificate as well. And I think that gives them some kind of confidence and recognition as well. So these are just ways in which you could potentially implement the pens. We've also worked closely with Barrett and Stoke, who you probably know are producers of books for dyslexic and reluctant readers. And our pens work lovely with these different samples of books as well. So I'd highly recommend having a look at them. And at the moment, we've collaborated with them, and we have a code for 25% off. So if you can see just at the bottom there's a code that you put in, and you'll be able to get some money off using those books as well. We're always campaigning and always feel that we can use these type of books to encourage people to get that pleasure for reading back, especially if they've come up from primary school and they're a real reluctant reader, or you're trying to find out kind of their reading age. This is a great way to help and support them. So we are teamed up with Barrett and Stoke as well. If I can click the slide, there we go. And these are just ideas of, like Neil mentioned, some of the dyslexia friendly schools where we did case studies and supported them. And here's a little bit about the toolbox that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to find out some more information on there is a QR code where you can have a look at a fantastic video from our head of education has created, and the user guide to help create your own box of exciting, I call it tricks, tools and tricks that you can go into and support. So guys, I'm going to pass over to the lovely Neil, who's going to talk to you about some of the main differences between the devices. And then after that, we've got a quick small video which talks about a school called the Outward Academy, where last year we filmed a fantastic case study, and they speak about how the impact has been both at school level and how it's a supported student in a secondary environment. So I'll pass over to Neil.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Jim. as you're all probably aware, we are very heavily in the secondary sector with our exam pens. So the exam pen is the locked down version of our pen approved by JCQ, so that obviously you can not have to have separate rooms or extra invigilators or human readers. And obviously, as long as it's their normal way of working, thank you, Jim. As long as it's their normal way of working, you don't have to fill out any access arrangements, form lines, or anything like that. The pens are literally just capable of reading out. They do have, the exam pen does have 12 different languages built into it, so it can be used in modern foreign language exams. So you can set the read and scan of, say, German or Italian or French, or obviously English if they're using it for the other exams. The battery life will last all day, so you can charge a pen up and be confident that it will last you for the whole day of exams. And you can easily change the settings and features to accommodate every student's needs, and we certainly recommend that, because there are different things for different students. And we'll cover this off with the other pens as well, because they all do the same. But basically, in an exam scenario, you're probably going to want them to scan the whole question rather than just the odd word. So you need to go into the settings of the pen and turn the auto read feature off, because otherwise, as soon as they scan the first line and then go to scan the second line, it will start reading out the first line, and obviously that'll be confusing. So if you want the auto read turned off, they can scan the whole question, and then they can play that at their leisure and replay it all the time it's on the screen, so that they can fully comprehend that question. And obviously, as we all know, if they understand the question, hopefully they have a much better chance of being able to answer it. So as we mentioned, they're JCQ approved, and you don't have to apply for any access arrangements. So we got the JCQ statement on the bottom there. Obviously, this will all be on the presentation that we send out, and it covers all of those exam boards also mentioned on the side there. Perfect. Thank you, Jim. If you want to move on, we'll go to the other pens. So the Reader 2, you heard me mention a school here recently has taken those on in the classroom. These are what we call everyday, more supportive pens. So as well as obviously being able to read out the printed text, it has a lot of other features available. You have a dictaphone or voice recorder capability where you can store notes, or the student can store notes. Or even with an example I had from a special school where the student had coexisting dyslexia and ADHD. So concentration was a bit of an issue. So the SENCo was recording lesson notes, short voice lesson notes on the pen for the student before the lesson, and they were able to keep them on track by playing those notes during the lesson, and obviously hopefully get over that concentration issue. So that was a new one on me, but there's many reasons, many things you can use the dictaphone or voice notes for. It's got storage capability, so you can store those voice notes, you can store any text that you want saved for later, and that all stores in what we call the library feature on the pen. And you've obviously got the dictionary definitions, which is the other benefit of this pen, which basically, as well as being able to scan and read out, you can click on a word and get an instant dictionary definition, so that you get that full comprehension and understanding. And this is the pen really that will help increase their reading age, their reading confidence, their reading ability and understanding as they're going through their reading journey, if you like. It's also got a few other features. You can connect the pen via the charging cable to the computer, as Jim mentioned earlier, like a bridge, if you like. You can scan directly to a cursor point. You plug the pen in, you then turn it on after connecting it to the computer, and you get a different menu, and you have the keyboard option, so you can scan directly to the keyboard on the screen, or USB feature where you can connect and transfer those files, those scanned saved texts in the library to the computer if you wish to do so. So that's our main reader pen, and really obviously if you're going to be using pens in class, that's what we recommend. You can see here it can be used in the Key Stage 2 stats. It can also be used in common entrance exams for independent schools. By putting the exam lock on, it takes off all of those hidden features, if you like, the other options for the voice recorder, the saving, etc., and just gives you the scan, the same as with the exam pen. But because this can be turned on and off, that's why you have to have a full exam pen for the JCQ exams. So there is a further option on this pen called practice mode, and practice mode is a way of using the pen to either prompt the student on things that you want them to learn, so you can scan in multiple words and they can go away, look in the practice mode and have a list of words that they want to learn. Or another way is it actually does record if the student scans over something more than once, or if they highlight a word or get a dictionary definition, it records that in the practice mode. So it's a way of being able to keep on a view of where that student is struggling or still requiring help. So that's a really useful tool, and that's on our reader pen. Thanks, Jim. So moving on to the Reader 3. So the Reader 3 is exactly the same as the Reader 2 in all of those features. However, it's a much newer looking pen and does have another benefit of being able to translate up to 40 different languages. Basically, you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capability on this pen, which our other pens don't. So again, if you do have students, and I found this in special schools, that really prefer the earbuds rather than headphones that go in the ears or noise cancelling, then this is a more discreet way of being able to use our pens in those classroom environments via Bluetooth connectivity. But also on the Wi-Fi, you're able to get translation. So it's really good for your students with EAL, and obviously also learning foreign languages. It can be really helpful. So the pen is a newer, slicker version. So we're finding students like the look of it better. And it's also touchscreen and the button navigations as well. I like to hybrid, as we call it. You can use your thumb on the left-hand side if you're right-handed to use the navigation keys, and then you can use your other thumb on the touch screen. So it's the newer generation, and obviously adds in those extra translation features for EAL students as well. Brilliant. Thank you, Jim.
Brilliant. Thank you, Neil. And Neil wonderfully explained all of the devices there and how they help to support. What I wanted to go through as well is some of the impact that we've had around using our devices. So, for example, this one here, which I'll zoom in a little bit, gives you kind of an idea on how our pens have been used in both primary and secondary settings. I think one of our most beneficial devices case study, is the Prince Albert High School case study that we did. So we used actually the books that I mentioned as well as support, the Barrington Stoke, and then we used a YARC, so the assessment for reading, as a criteria. And we found that after a 6 weeks project, so they were using them all day, every day, helped develop learning confidence and increase literacy and boost reading engagement. And the pupils' attitudes kind of really increased, and they gained strategies for their independent learning. And those were just some of the benefits. But we also found there was kind of a year, 4 months increase. So that's in just 6 weeks using our pens in comprehension, 5.4 months in reading accuracy, and 2.4 months in reading rate. And that's across kind of a level playing field with the students that we were working with in those intervention lessons, which just shows you kind of the impact that our pen can have in just 6 weeks, which is amazing, of course. And then there's also the personal benefits of the increased confidence and learning strategies that they had as well. And Prince Albert is quite a mainstream school, and they have kind of a nurture group and a nurture area that they support students to help them transition back into mainstream. So this was really important for us to try and get up and in there with these students. And one of the students actually took the pen from there, and they were just so anxious about examinations, and especially around the process of going into the exam hall with lots of people. But with the device, they were able to overcome this fear and actually use the pens as well. One of the other case studies that we have, because I really want to show you some of the impact that we have, is the one I mentioned earlier. So I'll have to stop sharing and unshare with sound. But this is a case study that we did with Outward Academy. So they're a huge trust within the kind of Yorkshire area, and we worked with the SEND director, who actually speaks on the call today, but they've purchased a large amount of our pens. But from here you can hear some of the students that are speaking, and the one at the end is a really kind of lovely story of a boy who's come over here as a foreign national, and you'll be able to hear about kind of his story and how it's helped to support him in exams. So let me share my screen again with sound, and I'll showcase. Hi.
Our pupils, because we were finding it increasingly difficult to source human readers for some of our learners, but we recognised that a human reader isn't preparing a young person for adulthood. So the reading pens were a great tool for us to be able to upskill our learners and then be able to feel empowered once they do go work out into the workplace.
So we have several students who use reading pens as part of their normal way of working. We've trialled and implemented several interventions previously to support students improve their reading ages, but we found that for these students the reading pens has had the most success, and students' confidence has significantly increased.
When I got the reading pen, it made me feel like really happy, because when I started getting longer words again, it helped me more to understand, and now I've put in my hard work and used the reading pen. It's helped me go up the sets, and now I feel real confidence reading in front of the class, and when there's a big word I feel like I can just get out my reading pen and scan it.
So when I came to Outward, they introduced the reading pen and that, and when I'm just normally just sat in lessons, it helps me, and I'm sometimes even in front of where all my friends are with reading. Because when I'm using the pen, I feel a lot more confident with my reading. I know if I'm struggling, I can scan over, and it helps me with the reading it.
I can definitely tell you that it improves independence and confidence. The students are much more comfortable being independent and reading for themselves than having someone read for them or not having any kind of support.
And I went to two schools. Reading is so hard because I didn't go help in my school. Yeah, and I went to Outward, the school, Outward Academy City Field, and this is when I got my help. Outward gave me the reading pen and said, use it, try it, and I tried it. And when I try it every single lesson, it helped me. And I'm like, it's a good thing to use this for to learn reading and to stand the sentence. I went in my exams, yeah, I used it. I feel myself, I'm reading. It helped me. I get my face smile when I'm using it.
So we would definitely recommend the use of reading pens to other schools, parents, carers and students, because due to the independence that they provide students, and we've seen firsthand the improving confidence that it's given to students using the assistive technology to be able to access our ambitious curriculum so they can engage in learning more independently, breaking down the phonology of the words and focusing on those other key skills that we need across the curriculum.
The impact of the reading pens for our learners has been phenomenal. I think the biggest measuring tool for us has been confidence. Some of our learners, we were experiencing a degree of sort of emotional-based lesson avoidance because of their anxiety levels about the demand on the curriculum at the minute. We know that exams are very literacy heavy, and for a barrier such as dyslexia, for example, these pens eliminated that and enabled them to access alongside their peers.
Thanks for listening, guys. So that's the outward video that we used, and honestly, going there and doing that was fantastic. As you can see there, Ahmad, who was one of the lads who had just taken his exams, had only been in the country for about a year and couldn't speak a word of English. So you can see how much he's improved in terms of his spoken English. And you can see there as well the smile and kind of content on his face about how he was able to kind of use these pens to give him access to things that he never thought he'd be able to. So yeah, fantastic case study. We do have the full video and some of the information from there as well. The other thing that myself and Neil didn't mention is, as part of an organisation as well, we do offer free training and free resources as well as support. So we don't just leave you to use our assistive tech. We know it's hardware, it's difficult to use sometimes, and there's a reluctancy. We spoke about that earlier around other assistive technologies. So Neil or my team are on hand to support with training and support, both virtually or in person. And we also have some online resources to help support and bed in this technology early on to help support students.
And just to back that up, Jim, it's so imperative, obviously, that if you have a student who obviously you think is going to be benefiting from using the pen, you want them to be able to use it. So you need to really go through those features and settings before you give the pen to the student, so that you can set it up in the way that they're going to need. And I find in a special school environment, you actually get the SENCo, for instance, to sit with the student and go through all of the features and settings and set it up with them, and you get that buy-in at that point from that student because you're setting it up for them to use, and obviously then it works in the way they want.
That's it. Yeah, thank you, Neil. And that's it really, guys. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into SIF technology, scanning pens, and yeah, I open the floor for any questions that people may have. But thank you, Lynn, for having us on. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you,
No
Lynn.
problem. Thank you. I can see it's got dark in here since since an hour ago
Yeah,
we set up. So wonderful. And I can also vouch for the fact that my son's severely dyslexic. He's about 4 years behind age related. He's in year 5, and the scanning pen has been a game changer for him, and he knows how to use it now. So any issues that the teacher has using it, he can normally figure it out. Otherwise, he just sends it home, and I fiddle with it and send it back in. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. And just in terms of autonomy as well, so children have ownership. He's made come on leaps and bounds since having that extra technology to support him.